From your vantage point, what do you think is an attractive voice? How would you define an attractive voice?
So when you add frequency physically to your voice by adding all of these amazing things, high tongue, AES, your posture is correct, you're using less air. When you have all that locked in, then your voice is as clean as it possibly can be with the most resonance that it possibly can have. And when I add emotion to my voice, to my words, and I start feeling love, and I start thinking about, oh my gosh, this is the best podcast of all time, Tenzin. I love being on this podcast. This is so great. Like, everybody should listen to this podcast. Just what I just did right there is I felt an extraordinary amount of love by a trigger that I've worked on for a while, and you felt it.
Welcome to the Tenzin Show. I am so enthralled to have you on, Matt.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
Yes.
You got to be on mine.
Of course. And that was such a great experience. To be honest, on your podcast, when I was the guest, I think I shared a plethora of things that I've never shared before. Things that I usually don't talk about. And I think only you have the power to bring that out of people, which I have to say is a talent. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that. I was talking to my girlfriend, Angela, today, and she was on another guy that was on my podcast, I think right before you or after you, Jonathan Fedora. And he said the exact same thing that you just said. Matt asked me questions that no one has ever asked me and got things out of me that no one has ever gotten out of me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for saying that.
Yes, indeed. You should probably be doing journalism. I'm thinking, yeah, because, you could be a very good journalist. You could get information out of politicians and, all kinds of people that we need to hear from, and all the secrets that need to come out from them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Right now it's, entrepreneurs, business leaders that I'm helping find their voice.
Yes. So how would you describe what you do?
Well, I've worked on this for a long time. My name is Matt Berthot. I'm a voice coach, but more than just a voice coach. I help people with craft, which is voice technique, artistry, which is storytelling, and performance magic, spirit, energy, getting people to feel emotionally what we want them to feel and see visually what we want them to see. Basically, I help your soul come out and say hello. Working with me, you get clarity, confidence, communication, connection to people in a deeper way, and most importantly, as you know, the courage to say and speak what you're supposed to say and speak.
Absolutely. That is beautiful.
It took 20 years to get that where it should be, right? A lot of business leaders come to me, and as you know, they're very intelligent. Lots of people we work with are super smart people. But when they talk sometimes, it's like a shotgun blast out of their mouth. And so it's all this information with no direction. It's just like a scatter thing, like blah, 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 blah. And what I do is I help them hone that in to make it simple with less words and more impact. Right? So it's like a sniper rifle instead of like a shotgun blast.
I love the examples that you gave.
Yeah, thanks.
And when we speak of voice, specifically when we speak of sound, as human beings, we know how others sound to us, but do we pay attention to how we sound to others? And would we want to listen to our own voice?
Would we want to listen to our own voice? Well, if any of you have ever recorded yourself that are listening to this or watching this, I think the answer is very obvious. We don't like the way we sound, generally, right? And so I get a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, I don't like the way I sound. And so there's ways to train the voice. The vocal cords themselves are the size of your fingernails, and they sit in the middle of your throat, basically. Everything around the vocal folds is what actually makes the sound. So it's the filters around the vocal folds themselves, your tendons, your muscles, that move. And then when they move, that's how the sound is changed. Almost like recipes that happen in your throat make different sounds. So what I do with my client with the Esto voice training, it's the technique that I choose to use with my voice students. It basically turns business leaders, singers, whoever comes to me for work as vocal athletes. So just like you go to the gym to work out or you do yoga, this is like vocal yoga. And so the idea is when you move these different muscles and tendons in your throat, e, ah, oo, he, ha, hoo, he, ah, oo. Each one of those, for examples, has a different move set recipe of movement of certain tendons and muscles in your throat. So the idea is to do these exercises, and then you gain resilience and flexibility, strength in those muscles, in those tendons in your throat. So obviously your clarity goes up. And so that's the technique part. That's that part. But when I started singing, because this all started out 20, oh my goodness, 26, 27 years ago. My junior year of high school, middle of my junior year, I was sad and depressed. And I was a jock boy and played a lot of sports, football, wrestling, and baseball. And this girl broke my heart. And I went to my counselor to get help because I was sad. And he asked me the question that I ask every single person that I asked you on my podcast, actually. But he asked me this question. And if he wouldn't have asked me this question, Tenzin, we would not be talking right now. He said, Matt, what do you love? And I said, Kylie. And he said, no. What do you love? What do you love? And I said, I like helping people. I love helping people. And he said, okay, well, that's great. What do you love that you're not doing right now? I almost think my mom might have put him up to this or something, looking back on this moment right now. He said, is there anything you do that maybe gives you joy, that you love to do? And I said, well, I like to sing a little bit in my truck, in my shower. And he said, all right, we're going to enroll you in choir. And I was like, whoa, what? You're going to enroll me in choir? I'm a junior in high school. It's the end of the first semester. And he did. He enrolled me in choir the second semester. And I fell in love with it. I tried to sing. I got made fun of in my singing. My nostrils would flare up, and I was nasal. I couldn't match pitch very well. But I had a real passion and a big heart because I really wanted to be good at singing. Like I really wanted it bad. And then it took me about 6.5 years to graduate college because I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know how to play piano. I got made fun of in college. In fact, Tenzin, this is hilarious. My freshman year, I can see it. We're going up the stairwell in my dorm, and I'm talking to a couple guys. I'm not going to say their name. And they're making fun of me because I feel so much. And they're saying words to me like this. Oh, are you going to feel it, Berthot? Are you going to feel it? Is that how you're going to do it? Are you going to feel it? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. So I was already aware of this gift a long time ago in my life. But because I was a foreigner to the music world, I attacked everything like an athlete. And so, you know, I went to public school and I taught for 19 years. And then in 2017, I went to my first Estel workshop with Kim Steinhauer. She's the Estel International president. And it was a 5-day intensive workshop from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day. And my brain was mush. But more than that, my ego was smashed because I thought I knew how to train singers and speakers. And on Friday night, I remember I was up in my bathroom crying because I had to go to school the following Monday after spring break and explain to all my voice students. I had 40 at the time that were taking lessons with me every week. Yep. I had explained to all of them and every single one of my choirs, 7 choirs, hey, everything I taught you about voice technique, I was really wrong. And so we're going to do this new thing now and make these sounds, E-ow, E-I-U, E-ow. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to make you vocal athletes. And it worked. And so the second year, I went back. And I went back to Kim Steinhauer. I said, I implemented it in the whole program. And what's really cool is this magic stuff. This Joe Estel talked about magic, performance magic. And so there's craft in the pillar, Kim, right? Yeah, Matt. And there's lots of people that know craft. There's artistry. This was 2018. There's artistry, which is storytelling, which few less people have mastered. I said, where's Joe Estel's papers and research on performance magic as she sees it? And I'll never forget this. Kim Steinhauer looked at me and she goes, Matt, there are none.
Wow. It was novel at that time.
Oh, yeah. In the 80s, nobody talked about that. But she had books and books on the metaphysical. Like, The Inner Game of Tennis was one of her favorite books. I haven't read it yet, but it's about visualization and performance, right? And so Kim looked at me and she goes, you're the magic. You're the magic torch. And so in 2019, I got selected from my abstract to present in London at King's College for my first speech ever in life on a global stage in front of all of the most brilliant voice coaches, teachers, West End teachers, Broadway teachers, professional teachers. And I got to present me and my team, students, alumni. I had one parent with me, and we did a presentation on performance magic. And I built that whole speech around Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural, and the phrase, energy is frequency, frequency carries information. And so I came up with these intention steps that kind of God just dropped in my brain before I went to make it simple. And I presented that in London, and it was a standing ovation. People were crying. They hugged me afterwards. But there were some skeptics. The Italian and the Spanish were kind of on the fence, like, I'm going to talk to him about this. And they gave me great long feedback on my presentation. But I remember coming out of that, talking to my team, and I told them, this moment literally changed the rest of my life. I don't know how. I don't know why, but I see a jet. I see me and my team flying on a jet all around the world, helping people find their voice. I see it. And 5 years later, I'm now going all over the country, all over the world. Just me right now, and I'm the one-man show as far as my team goes. My girlfriend Angela is helping me big time with the business side of it, and she is awesome, and she has so many gifts too. But the voice work itself is me. So the Esto voice training taught me that I could still grow, and I do enrichment with them anytime, at least once a year. I try to do more training with them. But there's levels, just like any coaching training program. So I'm an Esto Master Trainer candidate. And so the candidate is I just have to do some observation hours at a workshop, and then I'll get my full Esto Master Trainer certificate. And then you could be an Esto Master, Esto course instructor. That's the next level after that. But I have no aspirations to be a course instructor in Esto. I have aspirations to share the magic of performance. The thing that gives people goosebumps, that makes people remember every word that comes out of your mouth. That's my gift. That's why I'm here.
Looking back in hindsight, I feel it was all destiny for you. The kind of the mentor that you had who said that, and you were like, this is my moment. This is the aha moment for me where I realized that, okay, I need to do this. And despite everything, all the naysayers and people who don't believe in what you were trying to achieve, you've still carved your own path. And I have to applaud that. So thank you for sharing your anecdotes. When you were sharing your story, I also realized how amazing you are at storytelling. So I'm 100% sure that people listening to this, our audiences, will definitely reach out to you in case they need any assistance, any guidance with respect to crafting a more compelling story and learn the craft of communication, voice, and unleash the power of their voice. And
I want to say one thing about that, Tenzin.
Yeah.
Because I recently had someone sign up with me, and she said, I am not signing up with you to be a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm signing up with you because I want to communicate better. And I was like, wow, okay. That's commitment, right? Because as you work with me, as you know, being on the podcast, things come out that are the reason why I do this, right? So this person that I'm going to start working with recognized, wow, I want to be able to share my soul the way that Matt is sharing his soul with the world. No matter if it's my son, my daughter, my friend, my husband, my wife, my colleague, right? And so it's turning into that a bit more, where people just want to be better at communication with their team, with their parents, with whoever, right? But the key to growth in anything is vulnerability. That's a huge key. And what I see, and you're going to love this, Tenzin, because I know you've had it happen with people that you coach probably. You give them the craft, whatever the vehicle is, right? And so it might be, I think it was business etiquette, correct? Is that correct? And so there's certain things in that craft, right, that are black and white that you teach them, right? And then you go to another level. And then in the next level, whatever it is in life that you are working on, whatever the vehicle is, whether it's painting or you're an athlete or you're a designer or an engineer, you're a doctor, the craft is the fundamentals. You have to master that, right? The artistry in communication first is learning about how you communicate, right? Where did you learn that? did mom and dad teach you that? And of course, most of the people were like, no. I did. I said, okay, well, how did your dad handle emotions? And then they're like, I never saw my mom and dad fight or argue in front of me. Really? So they were perfect? Wow. That's amazing. But the reality is what? They just didn't show it in front of their kids, right? We know that. So I ask these questions for them to start thinking about, okay, how do I handle my emotions? Did I learn that from my mom? Did I learn that from my dad? Yes, you did. And then I ask, okay, well, how do you handle conflict? How did your mom handle conflict? Well, she ran into the bedroom and she locked the door and she cried. Well, how did your dad handle conflict? Well, he'd go outside, drink a 6-pack, make some chicken. Okay, well, how are you handling conflict, Matt? This happened when I was 23 years old. The therapist asked me these questions. And I said, I drink, I stay in my apartment, I play video games, and I don't go to class. Crap. I am just like my mom and dad. And Carolyn was her name. I remembered it today, actually. She goes, Matt, how do you want to handle conflict? And I looked at her, Tenzin, and I was like, there's a choice. I have a choice. She was like, of course you do. How do you want to handle it? I want to handle it. I want to attack it. I want to handle it head on. And that's what I've done ever since. That one moment, right? And so these moments, what do you love? How do you handle conflict? How do you handle emotions? These are questions now that, because they changed my life so much, right? We are supposed to share our light with the world. It's my responsibility because those questions were asked to me, those questions that changed the course of my life forever. If I don't ask those questions with my clients, I'm not shining my light. Right?
I absolutely agree with you on that. And when you mentioned about how the behavior of your parents, what runs in your DNA, for example, now that we're speaking about voice and communication and confidence and stress management and how we manage our emotions, it's hilarious. I actually read this particular piece of study some time ago, and it was about how, if, for example, my mom is more comfortable with keeping her left hand over her right when she's waiting at the airport, it probably means I would also be more comfortable keeping my left over my right, and I wouldn't do otherwise. And genetics in general is something that really has a massive impact on how we are, right? And we have, as you mentioned, do I want to change that programming? And here comes a question related to that. I've always been very intrigued by the field of neuroscience and epigenetics. And as I was, preparing for our conversation today, I thought, why not ask you about this? So, for example, you've coached an individual with their voice, with their confidence. Is it possible that the child would have the same kind of voice after the transformation? Or do you think the child would have the voice before the transformation of the father?
Say that one more time.
Okay, so for example, I come to you as a client, right? And I need voice coaching.
Got it.
I know this is tricky, but in the beginning, I have a different tone. My voice sounds different, very different texture. With the training, my voice is now different. Do you think when I have my child, the child would have the voice that is transformed, or the voice that I had before the transformation?
Well, that's an easy question to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, super easy. the voice would be the transformed voice, because you would be talking to that child, and that child's going to pick up on the way that you speak. For instance, one of my clients, Damien, he lives in New York. He is a massage therapist. He actually went to Tibet to be a monk when he was a little boy.
Okay.
He was a little white boy with all these Tibetan people, and his family sent him there to be a monk. Okay. He didn't finish his training, but he's like an urban monk now. All right. And so Damien, I started working with him because he had a very thick accent. He was from Holland. All right. And we started working on strengthening his tongue, getting optimal space in his mouth, and really working on these sounds that help strengthen what's inside of his throat. I didn't bring this up, but over time, after about a month or 2 or 3 of training, he would tell me, Matt, Verona, you have helped her speak better because of me speaking better. Because Verona spent a lot of time with Damien, her dad, and he would speak to her and work on the things that we're working on, and then she picked it up. In fact, she started making some of the sounds and doing it with him.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So yeah, 100%. However we speak is directly from our surroundings, our environment. All right. You hear me on this podcast. I've done a lot of work on my voice. I'm from 10 miles just above the Oklahoma border. And the majority of people that talk there will kind of talk like this. And we have a low tone. This is how we kind of talk. And so I was from Ark City. All right. I wrestled. This is how I talk. And so I had to work on a lot, tons, to get that accent a little bit less. Because I have a lot of people now that I meet, like at networking events and business entrepreneur events, and they look at me and they hear me talk and they go, "Where are you from?" I say, "Kansas." They're like, "Oh man, I thought you were from like California. I thought you were from, somewhere on the East Coast." I'm like, "No, I'm from Kansas." So we are a product of our environment. All right. There are some genetics, and that does have something to play into it. But however your environment is speaking to you is generally how you're going to speak.
Absolutely. And the power of sound. I mean, the nature of this topic itself is so intriguing. And I also think that sound has healing properties. That's why when you look at sematics as a field of study, right? It's how visually you could see how sound behaves. I mean, the patterns that we can understand and how beautifully and how intricate these patterns are. And now I want to ask you this. From your vantage point, what do you think is an attractive voice? How would you define an attractive voice?
This is going to be fun. So one of the best singers of all time is Luciano Pavarotti. And whenever you heard Luciano sing, you would be moved because of his voice. It's amazing. A lot of opera singers have a lot of resonance in their voice. They have a higher frequency of vibration in their voice. Here we go. All right. It can be measured on a spectrogram, or in the Estel world, an Estel voice print. And so in the Estel world, there's a voice print that you can download and you can use. And I can look at the voice print and watch Tenzin talk or sing and say, "Tenzin, you're using too much air. Tenzin, you have low tongue. Tenzin, you need to give me more AES narrow," which is area epiglottic sphincter. That's this area in front of your throat that narrows, and you add frequency and resonance to your sound. All right. When Luciano Pavarotti would sing, and he would go for his high C or any of those notes, in that range. He would have a lot of AES, narrowing of the area epiglottic sphincter, in his sound, and it would create frequencies from 3,000 to 4,000 kilohertz.
Wow.
Now, our ears, just like the rest of us, right? Our ears are no different than our taste buds, than our eyes. So our eyes, when we see fireworks, do we love it? Yes. When you see a beautiful piece of art, do you love it? Yes. Would you like to watch a beautiful piece of art or like a bland, piece of like plot of grass out there that's dirty and, yucky, right? You'd want to see the beautiful piece of art. Okay. Mouth. When we taste food and we start tasting foods that have a lot of flavor. I just got done watching Wonka with my kids, and there's a moment at the beginning that he gives his chocolate to 3 chocolatiers, and they taste it and they're blown away. They're like, oh my gosh, this has this flavor in it. This has salted caramel in it. This has the tears of a clown in Russia in it, right? It's so crazy, right? And Slugworth says, this is not good chocolate. Chocolate's to be made simple and bland. But Willie knows better than that. All the people like the different flavors in the chocolate that take them on a journey. Just like when we eat a really good dish that's really made well with the right spice and the right seasoning, right? Our taste buds love it. Our ears are no different. And so our ears enjoy high frequencies of sound. So the way that I'm speaking right now, I have a lot of AES in my voice. But if I took the AES out and I started talking like this with the same sound, it's not as fun to listen to. It doesn't cut through as much. It's kind of soft. And I have to get really close to the mic for you to be able to really understand what I'm saying. But when I narrow that, you can really hear that voice resonate more. And what it's doing is going, so when I'm open like that, it's like 0 to 1,000 kilohertz. So is this going to really inspire people? Is this really going to have a lot of people talk, like want to listen to me? No. But when I do this and I narrow it, then everybody wants to listen. But they don't know why sometimes. The reason why is because our ears recognize the higher frequency in our voice.
Wow. I never knew that. Wow. That's amazing. And is it true? I mean, so sorry, you were saying.
So when you add frequency physically to your voice by adding all of these amazing things, high tongue, AES, your posture is correct, you're using less air, right? When you have all that locked in, then your voice is as clean as it possibly can be with the most resonance that it possibly can have. All right. And when I add emotion to my voice, to my words, and I start feeling love and I start thinking about, oh my gosh, this is the best podcast of all time, Tenzin. I love being on this podcast. This is so great. Like everybody should listen to this podcast. Just what I just did right there is I felt an extraordinary amount of love by a trigger that I've worked on for a while. And you felt it. And you were like, ooh, he's talking about my podcast. I love my podcast. My podcast is great, right? But if I said, Tenzin's podcast is great. She's so amazing. She does such great work. And I can't wait to be on her podcast again. There was a disconnect there. No one felt anything. But I love being on Tenzin's podcast. It's great. She's amazing. She's done such amazing work. And we're lucky to have her on this earth. You feel that because I attach the emotion of love to my words. And so when I attach emotion to resonance, to the craft, and then I tell a really cool, alliterated story, right? Mm-hmm. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to forget that for the rest of my life. And that's what I teach people how to do.
Absolutely. I think I'm very inquisitive to learn. Okay, I would like for you to tell me if this is a myth or truth. Okay?
Ready.
Is it true that singers have an advantage when it comes to their voice and the clarity of their voice, especially if they aspire to be speakers, communicators, if they have a singing background, musical background? Is it an added leverage?
It depends. It depends if they're authentic with their voice. Because a lot of singers just like to hear themselves sing. And they imitate other people. And they don't even know what their true voice is. So that could be a hindrance if they start speaking. They might have the confidence. One of the exercises, I just did this with Jamie today. And Jamie is 31. And she lives in New York area. And she's an amazing singer. But one of the exercises that I have people do is I have you read the lyrics of the song or the speech that you're giving me, right? Because Tenzin, how many times have you seen someone on TED Talks or someone give a speech and they're reading it and it doesn't hit? It misses really bad. Right? Well, it's because they're reading. And when we read in school, how did that go usually?
Not really well.
Well, hi, Matt. I know after our phone call yesterday, God put you in my life. I felt so much connection and emotion. It touched my soul. That's how we read in class, and our teachers let us get away with that, right?
Yeah.
So, let's take a song, any song. What you got? Give me it.
Okay. Fly Me to the Moon, Frank Sinatra.
Okay. So we all know that song. Fly me to the moon and let me stay among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars, right? So then, if we strip away the pitch, say the lyrics, Tenzin.
Fly me to the moon and let
Without
me...
Without singing it, just
without
say
singing. Okay, because the thing is, I also sing, so I just do it. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
Good. Now, let's pretend you wrote it.
Okay.
And you have an intention to tell somebody about this thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're just going to go with that much so far. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm telling someone. It's mostly a conversation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, this is difficult.
I know. Go ahead, though.
Because I know it's a song, so. Fly me to... I can't.
It's right. This is hard, right?
Yeah.
But this is the work that we do, right? So it'd be like this. Fly me to the moon and let me stay among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. So you strip it from the pitch and you make it real. And then you go back and you put the pitch to it. Fly me to the moon and let me stay among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter or Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. And that adds a whole nother element, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because with feeling, you're breathing life into the words and sentences, right?
Mm-hmm. And not only that, the next level is if I visualize a scene. So if I visualize a scene, why not? Let's do it. Inside, is it outside? Okay. Is it day? Is it night? Okay, I got it. Who's there? Fly me to the moon and let me stay among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter or Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. So was it inside or outside?
It felt like it was outside because of the way you were.
Correct. Was it day or night?
It felt like it was day.
It was night.
It was night? Okay.
And
yeah,
then-
because
and-
stars, of course.
So, right. So what was I around? What was going on?
You're feeling it. You're picturizing it.
Who was I talking to?
This I don't know. This I don't know, but for sure it felt like you were feeling it. Mentally, you were there in that particular scene, is what I felt.
Correct. So it was outside. It was night. I was looking at my girl. And it was a lot like the Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone movie.
La La Land.
La La Land. So that was exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to be fun is if you have listeners that saw that scene, right? And so that's the idea.
Oh,
Is
okay.
you feel an extraordinary amount of feeling, love, and you visualize the scene, information, and then your audience feels that feeling and they see what you see. That's performance magic.
Yes, I completely agree with you because the frequency that you emit, you radiate, that bounces back at you. And, bringing it back, connecting almost like with the nested loops technique that I usually apply, bringing this back is when you mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural, which I'm a huge, massive fan of. He mentions that the energy that you emit, it radiates back. It bounces back at you. So even with this practice, what I've been able to understand is how you're feeling and the feeling that you're emitting, the frequency that you're emitting, you're also going to get the same. You're going to be receiving the same.
Yeah. So think about that. Everybody that just heard what she said, you could rewind like a minute and a half and really think about that and feel that. When you're angry, how does the world act around you? Angry. When you're upset, how does the world act around you? Upset. And one of the things that we learned at Evolve this last week with Angela, my girlfriend, she put on this beautiful retreat in Premland in Virginia. But she said to all of us, you are your environment. You're your environment. Because it's easy to be vibrating around a lot of people that are on the same frequency as you, right? And it's fun. It feels good, right? But when you come home, you've got to create and remember, I am the environment. my frequency of energy, I have to meditate. I have to do the breathing. I have to be grateful. I have to have gratitude, right? And that's part of the work I do too with my clients. Is it's a whole picture. In every religion, this is the vessel, right? And we are, as we've heard many people say, we are a soul with a body, not a body with a soul.
Mm.
We're a spirit with a body, not a body with a spirit, which is beautiful. Like, you think about it, right? Mm. And that energy vibrates inside of us all the time, all around us. And we have an opportunity to be in harmony with it or to have distortion with it. And, one of the things that I loved talking to you on my podcast about was your depth and the work that you've done to be in a higher frequency of energy. And you've been around some very, very light individuals that emit such bright light. And I think that's when people work with me, the hardest part is to get them to let go, to forgive themselves, to give themselves grace, and know that we're human. We're the spirit in a human experience, right? And when they do that, and they come to terms with, okay, I need to quit punishing myself. And I need to be in light. When they do that, it's the most beautiful moment that I can experience as a teacher. And that's one of my things that makes me tick, is watching that moment. I got to see that moment this last weekend with a girl that was going through these processes, like what we talked about, and learning that her environment was the reason why she had to prove herself. And so I asked those hard questions, right? Well, where did that come from? And then she just, and in that presence of getting all of that out and me being present with her, she got all out, and then she said, thank you. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she went to her room, and she came to dinner, and she said, Matt, what did you do? And I said, I was present for you. She goes, well, I sat in my room and I saw things with new eyes, and I smelled things differently, and I heard things differently. And I said, well, you did the work. You got it all out. But that's the kind of work I do with people.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And voice also has the power to change, to almost alter our personality, is what I feel. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Is it true that people with a deeper voice, like this, the bass is strong, is it true that signifies trust or builds trust? And people with a more higher pitch, I see a lot of comedians use higher pitch. Would you say that sort of pitch can actually have an impact like that of building trust, or establishing?
Well, it's all about frequency. It's all about resonance. All right. I have this drum over here, and it's a big, called a gomba. And it's very big. And it's big, and it has a bass sound to it, right? It's resonating more. But if I had a little baby drum, right, a higher pitched one, is it going to resonate as much? Is it going to vibrate as much? No. And so people that have a deeper voice resonate more. They vibrate more in that resonance, because they've learned to narrow this, Now, can you narrow in high pitch? Of course you can. And it's right here. Yeah. Hi, my name's Matt. But it's not the same. It doesn't have the same warmth to it because it's not bass frequency, right? Also, our whole world, for the most part, in every tradition, well, okay, like Tibetan monks.
Yeah, we do. We have that. It's really difficult though. Even though as kids, this is hilarious. Sorry to interrupt, but when you mentioned Tibetan monks, as a child, I used to try to do that. And my mom is like, don't disrespect like that. Don't do that. And she's like, they're going to be offended that you're trying to, make fun of them or something. But I'm like, no, it's so cool. I want to be able to do that. But then I remember one of the, lamas telling me that, kid, you might not want to try that. It requires a lot of practice and we use it for spiritual reasons. So it's like, yeah, sure. Because then, as a kid, what can you expect? I was a boisterous kid anyway. So yeah, please continue.
Yeah, so the Om, right? I was actually doing that the other day, and I understand why we do it. It literally grounds us to the earth with the earth's energy. When you do it correctly in that meditative state, you feel your body vibrate. You literally feel your body vibrate. And to me, that's an indicator, okay, I'm in. I'm in where I want to be, right? So refresh me the question before you went on that side thing. I forgot.
Wow, I forgot too. The question, I think, was, does a lower pitch or higher pitch build trust or, something along that line.
Where I was going with that is in almost every culture and every place on earth, most places, right? You get some cultures where like that's revered, right? But the majority of people revere James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman, right? When I started doing this work, we'll see how good it is today, but we'll try. But when I started doing this work, I was able to listen to these speakers and singers, and I was able to identify their recipe with the Estel figures. I was able to identify their recipe of sound. And so, like, Morgan Freeman has a low larynx and a lot of retraction, lots of AES. And so then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't sound like him. So I have to find like a cue word, right? And for me, one of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption. And he's got so many great lines in that. But so, yeah, Andy Dufresne, get busy living, get busy dying. Andy, there it is, Andy. And so you practice that, but if you hear like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Arrowhead Stadium, right? It's that, or even the movie, this summer, blah, 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 right?
That was so accurate.
Thank you. But that's the, we're used to that. And so I guess people trust it a little bit more because the authorities in the world have a lower larynx, a lower voice, right? Simba, right? It's James Earl Jones, or Luke, I am your father, right? So could you imagine Darth Vader? Luke, I am your father. No, like that ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. Right?
Yeah.
So there is some trust and authority. I think it's more authority. When, like Morgan Freeman was God's voice in, what was that movie with,
I know what you're saying.
Jim Carrey.
Yes. Something about God. Oh my God. I forgot the name. Oh, anyways, where he was playing God, basically.
Yeah. I mean, but you couldn't like
Bruce Almighty.
Like if God talked like this all the time, no one's going to listen to him, right?
Yeah.
But if it's Morgan Freeman talking to you, like you're going to listen.
Yeah. He's got the voice for sure.
Mm-hmm.
His voice is incredible. And also see in women, I adore Cate Blanchett. Oh my God, her voice is so amazing when it comes to like even the words that she uses. I know a lot of people say that, your words are so complicated and the kind of words that she uses are too difficult for people to comprehend. Like they would say, oh, you're using jargons. That's like against communication. But I still love her because I have a thing for people with good diction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. You had to work on it.
Absolutely. Because the more words you have, again, it's not a ticket to completely expressing yourself. But at the same time, I feel that if you know a lot of words and know how to use them at the right time, right place with the right kind of people, it's fun. And Gen Z has different words like, what's it called? Lit. And I don't know what. I don't find these cool. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm a 90s kid and I like using English. If I use English, I like it to be the kind that we grew up with using, how we use it. Mm-hmm. Not the zillennial lingo is not my thing, but I'm trying to fit in, Matt. Yeah, I'm trying to fit in. I'm 27 years old, but I don't fit in with zillennials still. I don't know why. But anyways,
we've talked about this, Tenzin. You're an old soul.
I'm an old soul. I love.
You already know that,
and I love my.
You already know that.
Yeah, I am for sure.
And that's why you've been in the same room with the people that you've been in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Matt, how can people contact you if they want to work on their voice, improve their communication, and unleash their voice?
So a couple ways. One, you can reach out to me on Instagram on Voice by Matt. So Voice by BY-MATT. That's it. I do have a website also, voicebymatt.com. If you want to email me, voicebymatt@gmail.com is my email address. I'm currently taking a few clients right now. If you need an MC for an event, if you need a speaker for an event, I'm your guy. I can help you. I love going into groups like for businesses and teaching like a hour or 2 hour workshop on how to use your voice better. I've been doing that a lot more this last year. But yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. And any final message for our audience tuning in?
Yeah. Couple.
Okay.
You get one shot on this earth that we consciously know of, that we're consciously aware of. And in that one shot, you have a chance to express yourself completely and wholly if you choose to, but it's your choice. And what I would like to say is, if you come from a family where mom and dad did not show emotion, or they didn't talk to you about emotions, then I'm the guy that can help you learn how to communicate with emotion in a very healthy way so that you can be seen, felt, and heard, and that your words will not fall short. You'll be remembered, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., just like some of the best speakers of all time. If there was no emotion attached to their words, we would not remember them. If there was no emotion attached to the singers of all time that we love so much, we would not remember them and they would not impact us. And the last thing I want to say is this, and this will probably be in my book at some point that I'm writing, but I have a question to everyone in the world, because Tenzin has had a dream since she was a little girl, and I've had a dream since I was a little boy. But as we go through life and we're working and we're in school, that dream gets beat out of us. The imagination gets rocked and we forget of the dream that we had since we were little. And so the question I have for your listeners and for the people that are watching is this: why is your dream your dream? Why is your dream and not mine? Because my dream is completely different than everybody else's dream. And don't you want to find out why your dream is your dream? Because I'd really like to find out in my lifetime why I have this dream inside of me to help all these people find their voice, to shine their light. I want to find out. And that's the journey. But if you really follow your dream, majority of the time, there's no blueprint. There's no map. You just have to have faith. Faith that God is going to lead you in the right direction. And if you try to get your ego involved, if you try to listen to everybody around you tell you what to do, your fulfillment will be lack. But if you listen to God and you follow your feet, your dream, the one that was planted inside of you, I think that's where fulfillment is. I think that's where wholeness is and happiness. But it starts with that question. Why is your dream your dream?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Matt. It is beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show. It has been my absolute honor to know you and to hear from you about your journey and how you're empowering so many with unlocking their voice and leading the life that they deserve. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me on. You keep shining your light. You're helping a lot of people.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thank you.